Historical Fredericksburg is growing nicely. However, I've been getting complaints from the residents that there's no place to quench their thirst. So today, we're going to build a beer garden. This build will be a recreation of the Ausländer Biergarten in Fredericksburg, Texas. It has a lot of unique features that should result in an interesting MOC. We can start off with the sidewalk out front, and my plan is to have one building on the right and another one on the left, which is connected via an outside covered area. I used various tan tiles to imitate some lighter wood flooring, leaving some studs for future details of course. And the center area gets covered with lots of stone pavers. Here's the first wall we can place down. And then I'll incorporate a couple of these containers to act as ice boxes for the bartender, followed up with the rest of the rear wall. This tile will need a custom sticker later, but let's go ahead and add a sink, along with a couple of drawers on either side of the ice boxes. That gets topped with a shelf with the faucet and a bunch of clean empty glasses ready to be filled. Here we have the first dollar the business ever earned mounted on one of the shelf supports. Above that we have an assortment of various drinks and spirits which can be requested. And let's put a couple of barrels of ale stacked in the corner. Now we can't have a beer garden without a bar. This one has a gold footrest below, as well as 3 taps in the corner and a few full glasses ready to be served. And that completes our bartender's area. Next we move over to the dining area with a couple of tables topped with some drinks. And I'll pop down a few of these simple stools for the customers to sit on. I thought a couple of construction workers who just got off work would be fitting, even if their high-vis vests might be a little too modern for the time period. And this winking lady can sit across the bearded guy, because who isn't attracted to a nice full beard? However, I realized just now that her hair collides with the wall, which means I need to rework the interior. I ended up moving the right table up against the wall and took out a couple of stools, which gives the minifigs more room. Now you can't have a beer garden without a couple of authentic German proprietors. These collectible minifigures were kind of expensive, but I thought they were definitely needed for such a MOC. I'll put the guy behind the bar and the lady out front about to serve some drinks. The next wall incorporates an archway that will lead out to the covered area with the stone pavers. Now we'll add some dark brown windows that are inset half a stud for some added texture, just like on the actual building. Inside the covered area, I'll add a stone bench for people to sit while waiting for a table. In front of that goes a rock wall and another little bench towards the outside. The inside wall of the left building also has an archway that connects it to the right building. And we'll add a nice big wooden door in the middle. I imagine these used to be separate buildings, but were later combined into one establishment. If we go around back, we can add a couple of shelves on those slope pieces for the patrons to use while mingling in the garden area. Back to the front, this rear wall has a bunch of clips for some much needed details, but first let's add a sink and a cabinet, along with another tall stack of barrels holding some backstock. And then the tiniest little grill on the left with the counter in front. Now what's a German beer garden without some German sausage? I wanted to use the dark red ones too, but they are quite rare, so our sausage selection is unfortunately quite limited. There's a bottle of mustard and a single bun up high on a shelf, just in case a tourist mistakenly orders a hot dog instead of the sausage platter. And we'll add the chef, who is a little cramped in his kitchen, but hey, this is primarily a beer garden. Let's put a few standing tables in this area, along with various drinks, including those butterbeer pieces from the Harry Potter sets. The left wall has a couple of studs, one for the stove's vent hood, and the other for the quite necessary dartboard. Over here, I thought there could be a group of painters having a drink after they got off work. These two are collectible minifigs, and this generic one looks a little perturbed, maybe because he was stuck painting all the detailed work. Now the establishment is nice and full. Out front, I wanted to recreate the folding windows to let in some fresh air on nice days. However, I realized that the window frames prevent them from closing and opening. They are still operable, but they do require a little deconstruction to fully change their orientation. I'm okay with that since I'll be leaving them in the open position, or maybe slightly ajar. Now we need a nice big dark brown awning overhead with some fence pieces around the edge. And these elephant tail pieces in dark brown will work perfectly as supports. A similar roof covers the back of the left building. And let's be sure to add the flags out front. The actual Ausländer has a Bavarian flag and some others that I'm not familiar with, but I think the colors of the German flag are a nice simple substitute. Around back, we need to close off the rear access. This black lattice gate piece is actually kind of rare. It was only in 6 sets from the 70s and 80s, and I didn't think I'd be able to get it. However, I found a seller that had them for really cheap, so I made sure to pick them up. I'm really happy that I was able to get these because they're perfect for the look here. Above this, I'll be using another rare lattice piece that I was also fortunate to find fairly cheap. It was only in 2 sets, one being the Jabba's sail barge from '06. Again, I'm really happy to get it because it's perfect for the open garden area. Next we need to finish the right side, which will have a sloped roof. The front gable has a pretzel piece for some decorative detail. Then on the back I made an antler build to hang up on the wall. For the other side, I made an old ceiling fan similar to the one in the detective's office modular. It's pretty fun to spin and likely runs on belts like they did back in the day. I guess I could have represented that with rubber bands, but I like how it can move to the side for easier interior access. The roof is hinged together and has alternating high and low black tiles to create a unique looking texture. Front and center we have this cool cupola tower thing with a window in the center. And it has a similar roof as the big one. The actual Ausländer has a giant German coat of arms on the tower, which is a black eagle on a yellow shield. So I'll be using this big golden shield from the Nexonite sets, and this black crow piece from the Tonto headdress found in the Lone Ranger sets. I know it's not an eagle, but I think this turned out to be a pretty good 3D representation of the coat of arms, rather than just making a flat sticker. Now before we wrap up, there's one essential thing missing, and that's an outhouse. I made this kind of rundown looking wooden one with some tiles not quite fully aligning. Let's place that around back, along with a couple of empty bottles nearby. And this baseball player looks like he's on his way towards it right now. Just because I have him, I'll add this horse costume guy out front, who looks like he had a fun time at the beer garden. I actually ended up switching the pretzel piece to a black wheel piece, and I made a Bavarian flag sticker for the inside. Finally, I'll add this sign piece with a custom sticker out front so everyone can find the place. I'm really happy with how this one turned out, and it was quite the challenge to design a faithful representation of the original building. It has plenty of great details, and will be a great social gathering spot that I think all of my residents will be happy to frequent. Well, maybe not all of them. It'd be great to hear your thoughts in the comments, and stay tuned for the next edition to Fredericksburg, which will be a much needed staple for the summer harvest. See you next time!